All right, so now I'm going to turn on my screen. Okay, you guys see in my screen, you see in this slide here that says agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's
Okay, so, you know, if you, I think a few of you guys have been here before. Let's see, is there anybody that hasn't been to one of our trainings before?
I haven't.
Okay, all right. Well, then we're gonna start with the basics and just kind of help you find your way around, and then we'll try to reserve some time for everybody's questions. So,
well, actually, so I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I can't seem to log into my account.
Well, I think we can fix that for you. The best way to do that, though, is just to email support@salesnexus.com, and that they can help you get in there. Just send them the email that you're using to log on or that you use to set up your account. You know. Okay, so I need to also record this. All right, now, okay, so you know, if you're here, then most likely you fall into one of two different groups. One is you're in some kind of maybe it's a nonprofit or e-commerce business where you just want to literally automate everything and you don't really need to talk to every customer, you know, like in a sales kind of a situation. So if that's the category you fall into, then you're in the right place. We're going to show you how to do that. Or you're in a business, more of a B2B business where there's some kind of a, you know, human to human conversation and relationship building going on that that closes the deal, right? And a lot of repeat business and things like that. And so you need to build a relationship and automate everything else around that, right? So if you fall into one of those two categories, then we're going to get into how to do that with SalesNexus. At a basic level, the way we're going to approach that is we're going to help you organize your customers into whatever you want to call them, segments, lists, groups, and then trigger action based on each customer's movement through those groups, or the sales stages would be one way to think about it, or the funnel. Let's see, looks like we got, okay. So before I jump in, just for everybody to know, if you need help, we're here for you. Don't be shy. It doesn't cost extra. There's no limits on how many questions you can ask or anything. If you just go to salesnexus.com/support, that's where you'll get all of our training videos. We've got the whole system broken down into 3 to 5 minute little videos. You can access our knowledge base there. The YouTube channel is at SalesNexus. And like I mentioned earlier, you should be able to access the recordings of these sessions there. And then you can also email our support team at support@salesnexus.com. And they're awesome. They're going to help you right away. You're not going to wait for a day to hear back from them. Our average reply time is about an hour, and our average resolution time is less than a day, meaning, you know, you ask a question and by the end of the day, it's solved and you're back to work. I'm going to put this link in the chat here in the meeting. If you're willing to give us a review, that'd be super helpful. So other people can find us and take advantage of SalesNexus too. I'm going to close that so I won't get disturbed with notifications. Okay, so let's jump in. So in SalesNexus, the goal is either you come in and you're logging on to the system and you're looking at a dashboard like this and you're seeing, you know, how many leads came in yesterday and how many sales were made and so on and so forth. Or if you're a sales rep, you want to be able to log on and come in and go, all right, there's the people I need to call today, right? And I know exactly why I'm calling each and every one of them. And I click into Adam. He's the first guy on my list. And I click and I dial and I get him on the phone and I start entering the answers to questions that I'm asking him, right? Let's see. There's a lot of background noise, so I'm going to go ahead and mute some people here. But anyway, quickly filling this out, and then I move on to the next guy on the list, and I do it again, right? So now I click and I dial Adrian, and I get her on the phone, and I start entering the answers to my questions for her. And, quick, simple, easy, right? If I need to send a follow-up, I can click here. But the important thing is that just by virtue of my filling out these fields here, automatically I've triggered some kind of follow-up sequence. So, whatever business I'm in, because I checked off that they're doing fast food and family dining, then automatically they're getting a certain set of messages from me, because that's the important thing for them to know about those products or services that I offer, right? So in order to get there, what you got to do first is organize the customers, like we talked about earlier. That means in our world, creating and laying out fields on the screen so that these fields that you see right here, front and center, are the ones that you care about, not stuff we put in there, right? And then over here on the right, you can have even more, tabs of additional information. And you see here in my demo database, I just have a bunch of different sort of industry-based examples, fields you might want to know if you're in some kind of an industrial field, or if you're in insurance. There's different things you want to know about your customers. So you can organize the left side and the right side. And what you do is you go here to edit layout. And that's how you change the fields that appear on that left side. So I can take out all of these, sort of industrial type fields. Maybe I don't care about that stuff. Maybe I'm in more of a real estate type business. So I'm going to pull over how many bathrooms they have. And maybe I need to know how big the lot is. And maybe I need to know something about their mortgage or loan. So I'm going to pull over some information about that. And so I just move it over to the right, and then I can move it all to the top. So it'll be easy to find. And that's it. So now you see here, I got number of bathrooms, acres, loan type, loan status, loan amount, etc. Right? So now I can put in the loan amount while I'm talking to the customer, and it's a new submission or whatever. So pretty simple. You can do the same thing on the right side. The way it works is on the left, you have one layout that you're going to see for every customer. And on the right, you can have all these different tabs. And in each tab, you can click the edit layout button right there to do the same thing. Now, if you need to create new fields, you go up to settings here, and then organize and customize. And here you've got the list of all the different fields that are already in your account. Yours won't be quite so long. In my demo account, I've created so many examples, it's a little exhaustive. Also, I need to take this moment to explain what you're going to see here. The UI is a little bit different. We've made a couple of improvements that we're about to roll out for you in a couple of weeks. We're just in beta tests right now. And so I'm using that new version here. You can see here to add a new field, I click the little plus button. In your version, the button's kind of hidden down here at the bottom of this list, and it says add new field. You'll notice a few things like that. but we're doing it. I wanted to do this training in this version so that you guys get a preview of where everything is. So when the changes come, it won't be surprising. So I'm going to create a field, and let's say I need to know, the type of siding they have on their home, right? And I want to make that a drop down. So I say save, and it's going to create that field for me. And now here, drop down items, I just hit plus, and then I can say, what do they call it? Hardy plank. And add that to my drop down and put in brick and wood. And, I keep going. So now we've created this field. I guess I put hardy plank in twice somehow. Let me take it out. And now if I go back to my record or any customer record, doesn't matter. I can go back to that edit layout, and I can find that type of siding field that we just created. There it is. Move it over, put it on the top, hit save. And there we go. There it is. So everybody see how that works? Any questions about creating the fields, laying them out on the screen, etc.? No? Okay. So
I have a question in regards to editing the fields. Is it a good time to ask that?
sure. Yeah.
So I realize I'm doing something wrong. I'll tell you what I'm doing. So like I'll upload a list of new contacts of 40 new leads, and then I'll save them as a lookup. And then I'll say, okay, some of these contacts have a 702 number. I know they're from Vegas. I want to highlight those. So I'll check the box next to those. And then I'll and then I'll go in the field and I'll select city. And then I'll go in the field next to it and I'll type Las Vegas. And then I'll hit submit. And I'm thinking it's only going to change those 5 or 6 or the whatever ones that I checked, but somehow it changes all 40 of them, all of them that I have in my lookup.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. And it is a little confusing. Let me show you how that works. So if I go to contacts and do create lookup, I'm going to look for, phone starts with 713, because I'm pretty sure I got a lot of that here in my database. Yeah. So there's 529 people, right? So I make that my lookup, and then I go to edit list, and what you're doing is checking a few off like this, right?
Right.
And then you're going up here to update that city field.
Right.
What these check boxes do is they let you remove some people from the list or delete them or merge them. But so what I would want to do is maybe for whatever reason, my lookup pulled up some contacts that really don't fit, right? And I can see those by just scanning through the list. So I can check them off and say, remove those from my list. So it just took them off the list. It didn't delete them from the database. It just took them off the list. Now I go back to edit list, and I do city, and I'll choose Houston and hit update. So like you just said, it's going to update everybody on that list, everyone that remains on that list. So in your example, what you probably want to do is first check off and then remove the ones you don't want to update, and then do the update. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then I guess I could then go back and create that list again with the way it was. So yeah, I figure out the workaround now. I think I can figure out how it works.
Okay, good.
Thanks for explaining.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on something that's kind of the next phase of setting things up, which is doing the lookups. So, you've organized these customers using fields like we talked about. Now what we want to do is kind of create saved lists that we can quickly access. So we go to contacts, create lookup, and here I'll just access one that's already saved. So I have a list of, or a search, a lookup of prospects that are owned by Dawn, my sales rep, right? So maybe she's my new sales rep, and I really want to keep an eye on how things are going with her as she kind of gets up to speed, right? So I got a little saved lookup here. The way you do that is you can see, you can choose all of any field you want. I could add a city field to it or something like that, right? I want all her leads that are in Washington or whatever. You can do 8 different fields, and you get those criteria right. I'm going to turn off that city part because I'm probably not going to get any results if I do leave it there. So see, I got 133 of prospects that are owned by Dawn, right? So now when I do that, when you've set these criteria, you can hit save, and then you can give it a name here and save that lookup, right? So that you can always come back here and you don't have to enter the criteria again, right? But more importantly, that shows up in other places. So now I can go to contacts, view all contacts, and here I can choose that list, without going to the lookup page, right? And you can notice here the little lock that lets you make a list your default. So when you come to this view all contacts, that's the list you're going to see, the first time. So you don't have to select it. But you can have as many of these saved lookups as you want. So, you might have one for leads, and you might have one for customers and past customers, and, customers by product, and whatever other, sort of segments again, that you want to create in your business. So that makes sense. Any questions about that? Okay. So now we've got our customers organized into different lists. One quick kind of cool feature that you'll like is when you're on a list view like this, if you just click and hold, it puts that cell into edit mode. And so I can make edits to these fields and update them right here in the list view. I don't even have to change to, or go into the customer record, right? So you can kind of work in spreadsheet mode if you like that better. Now, once we've got things organized, now we want to start creating campaigns and sequences and processes, right? So let's look at how we do that. Go up here to campaigns, email templates. Here you have all our saved templates that you can grab and start with, and just drag in your images and your text. I'm just going to grab one that we've previously worked on. And so you can see over here on the right, you have all the different types of content that you can add, and then just drag it over. So if I wanted to put another text box on top of that image, I just drag that right there. And maybe I want to put a headline, and so I can, you notice when I'm clicking into a text box, I get this little black toolbar that lets me format it in all the normal ways that you would expect. I can change the font size, whatever. Here I can put in the merge tags. So you see down here in this text block, this is the mail merge field for the renewal date. If I wanted to add, your policy covers, and maybe I got another merge field or another field in SalesNexus for, their coverage, right? Which I don't think I actually have. So I'm just going to put in that one. But you see how that works. So now it's going to be personalized for every recipient automatically. And you see down here, these my mail merge tags, that means it's going to be personalized for your sales team as well. So when you're putting in the merge tags, you can choose contact fields or my record fields. My record fields means pull it from the user's record, not the customer's record. So in this case, it's the signature for your sales rep, right? Their contact information. And so you can create a campaign that your whole team can use, but the emails will be personalized for the customer and for each of your sales reps or whoever it is that's, assigned responsibility for that contact. You want to add another button or whatever, you just drag that over. I have one here already. You put the link to, so if I want to put a link to our video channel in that, or link that button to our video channel on YouTube, I just put that URL right there, and that's it. So pretty simple. I will save that. And then a couple of things you need to know about here under actions. First, you can preview. That's important. Just, hey, what's it going to look like in the real world, right? One important detail is check the mobile view by clicking here, because, at least 50% of your emails are going to be opened up on a mobile device. And so you need to just double check the formatting on that smaller screen. And we can go back and go to actions and send test. That's how we send it to ourselves. Put in whatever, email you want, your personal email or whatever. Hit send, and now it's just going to send it to you so you can see what it looks like in the inbox.
No, I have one more that I'm working with. I'm just trying to get pricing from her because the deck is pretty confusing. So before I give it to you, I was going to pick up.
Okay, I think that was not a question, I hope. And then the other thing I wanted to point out here, save as template. That's just how you save a copy, right? So I want to create a duplicate copy of this email, so I can have the same formatting, but change the message a little bit, right? So you just actions, save as template. So now we have a second copy of that template, and we can make more changes to it. And when we have it ready, we go up here to start campaign with this template. And here you put in the subject line. And give the campaign a name and hit next. And now we are in our campaign builder, and we have one email in there. And so if that's all I want to do is just send one email, then I'm pretty much done. I would just save it here and say save and begin campaign, or automate this campaign. But the power of SalesNexus is I can go here and add another email and create a sequence, right? So I hit add, and I can put in a new subject line. And choose the template I want to use. Oops, I forgot something there. I'm going to edit this and put 3 days here. And so now you kind of see how things work, right? You're creating a sequence where this days after column is how you define, the sequence in terms of days. Now, it doesn't have to be just emails. It doesn't have to be any emails. It could be any of these things: tasks, calls, meetings, text messages, webhooks. So let's say I want to send them a text message next. So I click there and I say add, and I go here and I say, let's do that on the 5th day. And I'm just going to grab an existing text template that we've already created. And you can see here, you can mail merge in the text messages the same way you do in the emails. You use these fields right here to insert those mail merge codes. So I'll save that. And now we've got a 3-step sequence. I'll add one more step. We'll put a call in there. And I can choose what it's going to be about. This will be what appears on the task list, on the day that, let's say on the 7th day, right? So now we've got a 4-step campaign. I'm going to save it. And if I just want to maybe I've already looked up a list of people that are renewing next month or something, right? So go here, save and begin campaign. I want to start that tomorrow at 9:30, let's say. And I have 525 current lookup. That's just whatever, when I was showing you how to do the lookups and stuff, that's the last list that I had kind of active in the system, right? Or I can go here and say saved lookup and choose from any of those saved lookups that we were talking about earlier, right? So there's my renewals due lookup, right? So you can create a renewals due lookup that says, if the renewal date is within 30 days or something like that. And hit begin campaign, confirm it, and that's it. It's set it and forget it. The emails and the text messages are going out. The only thing I need to know is that in 7 days, I'm going to see a whole bunch of calls showing up on my task list to call all these people that are renewing. So anybody have any questions about the campaigns and setting up those sequences and so on? Let's see. Okay, a couple of questions here from Mark. Yeah, sorry, Mark, I muted you earlier because there's a little background noise. Let's see. Yeah, so the first question, that's what we call our email capture service. So for everybody else, if you go here to settings and then email capture settings, here you can connect to either your Google or your Outlook account, and it will automatically grab all the emails that you're exchanging via your Outlook or Google account and find the customer in SalesNexus and then attach that email to that customer record, so that when you come to a customer in SalesNexus like this, and you go to the notes tab, whoops, there we go. Here, you'll see those emails showing up here, and they'll be clickable. So if you want to open it back up in Outlook, you just click the link and it opens it up, or Gmail or whatever. And it'll have the attachments and so on. Super handy in a team environment because, a lot of times customers don't copy everybody else, right? They're just sending it to their sales rep or whatever. But then, next week, the sales rep's on vacation and you need to access that spec sheet that the customer sent you, right? Well, now you can by turning on that email capture service. So hopefully that answers your question there, Mark. And then, yes, you should be using your main email address. Really, it's two things. It's what do you want your branding to be? What do you want the customers to see. I'm trying to unmute you, by the way, but I don't know how to do that. Anyway,
Oh, there.
you know, what do you, oh, there you are. Okay, good.
So going back real quick, I apologize. I was doing setting up the email, but I'm getting a message that says the app is blocked.
Oh, with Google?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a long story, but the short version is they changed the rules on us, and we're having to go back through a little security review to get unblocked.
Okay.
Which we've already basically completed. We're just kind of going through the final paperwork, and so it'll
Is
get
there a
unblocked.
way around it in the meantime?
If you're using Google Workspace, I think there is, but I don't know it because I'm not a Google expert. You can check with our support team, but it should be next week or two.
Wait, so Craig, I'm encountering that same exact issue, and when I asked last week, you said that I just need to copy that code from the DKIM and put it in the DNS.
Well, two different things. So what Mark's asking about is connecting our email capture service to your Google account. What you're referring to is the setting up the DKIM, which are two different things. So the DKIM, and that, I guess, Mark, you were kind of asking about that too. Let me go back here. When you send emails through SalesNexus, through an email campaign like we just worked on a minute ago, right? Your from address will be whatever is in your My Record. So if I go over here to my profile and I go to My Record, that email is going to be the from address. I can change it to anything I want. I could change it to my SalesNexus address or whatever. But you see the little red X? That's telling me that I don't have DKIM set up for the SalesNexusTeam.com domain. And DKIM is a authentication method that's become very important in the last couple of years. Google and Outlook and everybody else have kind of made it important. Essentially what it's doing is it's telling the internet that the emails that are sent by our system using your domain are legitimate. They're not somebody trying to pretend to be you and scam customers or something like that, right? So the setup for the DKIM is you go here to settings, email, and set up DKIM. You put in your domain, and then you hit validate, and it'll give you this little code, which you copy. And then you just click here, and you're going to get this step-by-step guide to, you got to log on to your DNS where you registered your domain name settings, and create a text record and paste that code into that text record. But while we're on this topic, one thing that most people miss is that this is a 4-step process. You got to go past just step 1 here because you need to set up SPF and a return domain. This is all the stuff that Google and Outlook have really started emphasizing in the last couple of years. So does that make sense? Questions about that?
Yeah, we have a guy that does a lot of IT work here too, so he's been helping me out with a lot of the domain stuff. A problem I encountered was that the domain I was trying to use wasn't, I guess, registered through SalesNexus, or we had a different one that was already registered, or it's very confusing.
Well, so like if you go here, do you see the right domain?
Well, I put the wrong one in, so now I can't change it.
I see. Okay, you got to email our support team, and they can.
That's what we're working through. We're working through that right now.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I should be good for now. Thank you, Craig.
Sure.
That,
Let's
that
see.
brought- that brings up a question I had. I represent, I maintain a few different businesses, and so would I have to choose only one of my email addresses to use to do outreach with for each of the businesses, or is there a way to set it up so that I could have this
Right.
recognized for all the domain names?
Right. Yeah, no, you can do multiple. The only limitation is that right now our system's just not built for that. So like Ethan was just referring to, you can put in your first domain, go through this process and get the DKIM validated for that domain. And then what you have to do is email our support team and tell them to clear this out for you. And you can put in a second domain and just repeat the process as many times as you need. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah. Thanks.
And then the just to be clear for everybody, the final piece of that is you also have to go to your My Record and change this email so that it matches that domain that you just set up the DKIM for, right? So you'll know you've done it right when you go here and you don't see a red X anymore. You see a green check mark. And then when you're talking about, sorry, go ahead.
So after we do that once for each of the businesses that we want to be able to represent, then we'd just be able to go in there and change that at will whenever we want to do a campaign without letting you know that, hey, we need you to clear that cache out so that we could put a new email in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And a couple of tricks that'll make life a little easier, I think. You can, when you're setting up your campaigns, you have some options. So if I go into one of these campaigns here, you notice that under user, it says current user map market. And if I edit one of those steps up here, you see how it says from address, current user map market. That's just because that's who I'm logged on as right now. I can change that and I can say, I want this to always come from Jerry, right? Or I can say, make it the contacts record manager, meaning I want it to always come from the salesperson that owns that particular contact. And so in this multiple brands or businesses situation that you're describing, you're going to most likely what you're going to want to do is create users in SalesNexus for each brand, right? And then when you're creating a campaign, you'll just know if you're creating a campaign for brand A that Jerry is the user that is has the branda.com email address, and you just make him the from address. And that way you don't even have to change it, go and make changes anymore. You just use the different user accounts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And how did you get into this screen here, this page?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. If you go to campaigns, view campaigns, and then I'm just editing a campaign. So I'm just back in the campaign builder.
Okay.
And then you hit edit to edit one of the tasks where you can change this drop down.
Cool. Okay.
So every user on your account will appear in this list, and you'll have this current user and contacts record manager option.
Cool. That answers that.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now want to make sure we get to the automation part of things too. So really works a lot like the lookup, but we're connecting a lookup or criteria with a campaign or a process. And another quick note for all you guys, currently there's another little, we call it the hamburger menu, that appears in your account right here. And that's where you'll find the automation plans. In the update that's coming, it's going to be, sorry, I'm learning too. It's over here under campaigns, and you have automation plans. So that'll be moving. So go to automation plans, and I'll just open up one that we've already created. And we'll see kind of how it works. Here I have the criteria. So I just choose any field and set up, the value that I want to, correlate my campaign to. So if the call status is set to hot opportunity, and I'm a recruiter, right? So if I get off the phone and I change them to hot opportunity, and I put in the positions available field that they're looking for lead engineers, then I automatically want them to go on this campaign, right? So that's all you do is you go here and you add fields and criteria, and then you choose your campaign that you've created, like we looked at earlier, and you hit save, and now you've got an automation. So no matter how new data comes into SalesNexus, it could be you typing in a new customer, or you updating an existing customer, changing the fields like we looked at earlier. It could be somebody filling out a form on your web page. It could be data coming in through Zapier or through our API or whatever. Either way, if a customer gets set to call status equals hot opportunity and positions available equals lead engineer, then they are going on this campaign immediately and automatically. Does that make sense? Any questions about the automations?
Real quick, so can we have it so when someone fills out a form fill, that it goes into like a special place where we could just look at all the form fills for the day? Or
Sure. Yeah. So different ways to do it. Like one thing you probably will want is like a dashboard that does exactly what you just said, right? So here I have one that's showing me all my different leads from all the different sources, right? But you could create one that's just for the website, right? And so let's back up and kind of walk through that process. You would first go to settings, and then integrations, and then website. And then here, you're going to choose the fields in SalesNexus that correspond to your web form, right? So you click here, and maybe your form is super simple. It's just name, phone, and email. Well, that's all you need. You can take all this other stuff out of there. I have some other things in there. You can, as you can see, you can put your custom fields in. And importantly, what I've done here is I've added this lead source and status field. Those are fields that that are already in your account, and most people use them to organize, lead sources. Where did this lead come from? And status is it a new lead, or is it a client, or whatever, right? So I've added those into this mapping, even though they're not in my form, and I'll show you why. I'm going to save that. And now down here, we'll see, here's all those fields that we just selected. And then what we're doing here is we're mapping those fields in SalesNexus to the name of the field in your form. So maybe that field is called name in your web form, and this one's called phone, and this one's called email, and this one's called lines, and this one's called title and size. There's a whole KB article, help article right here that'll show you how to figure out what these labels should be from your form. But to answer your question, here for lead source, I'm going to say constant and then put in website. And for status, I'm going to say constant and put in new lead, right? And then for submit, I'll put in submit. And so what that's doing is it's saying, take the data that they submit in these fields and put them into these fields. But in these two cases, always make lead source equal to website and status equal to new lead. And then I come down here and I say save and generate script. And it's going to give you a little JavaScript that you just copy. And then you go to your web form and you paste that JavaScript in there so that when they hit submit on the form, it calls that JavaScript and you're off and running. Right. So
And
now
what happens if they're not in the system already?
that's the whole idea. They don't need
So
to be.
it'll create a record for them?
Yeah. Yeah. And since you bring that up, it will handle duplicates if they are in the system already, right? So you can see right here is unique. That what that's meaning is if they're already in there, don't create a new one, right? And so it's saying if that email address already exists in the database, don't create a new one. And what it can do is update certain of these fields instead of overwriting or creating a new one, if that makes sense. So you have some options there. But then what you're going to see, actually, let me show you this way. I'm going to go to automation plans and here's an automation that we created to automatically trigger this campaign when somebody submits the form on our site and they happen to mention that they're not a CEO, right? So maybe, or let's flip it around. It's easier to, better example. So if their title is CEO and it's a new contact and I need to have here lead source equals website, right? Now I save that. And so now everybody's going to go on that drip sequence automatically. And if you want that sequence, that campaign that you're triggering can have a little task in it so that your sales rep is going to see something like this, right? So Adam just filled out that form on the site and now it jumps up in front of the sales guy and he knows this is somebody that filled out the form on the website and he knows why he's calling, right? Does that all fit together, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's see.
I have a question in regards to uploading new contacts and then checking that box that you said, if this email exists, ignore it. What I'm wondering is, does that mean just ignore putting in that email field, or does it mean ignore everything related to that contact with that email and don't put it in the database?
Well, you mentioned importing versus using the web form. Is that right?
Yeah. I was changing the case.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because let's go there. So we're going to go to contacts and then import. And here you'll upload your CSV file. I'm going to just try to find one handy. Actually, I tried to get myself kind of organized the other day, and I think I've got one sitting there waiting for me. Okay, there we go. So there's a CSV file. I hit upload, and what you're going to see here, this is a terrible example. Let me do that again. Let's see. Okay. No, that's not going to work either. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. I got to find a decent file that's going to have a good example here.
Because the situation I have is I've got multiple contact lists, and some of it has some of the same contacts, but it might not have all of the same information about that contact, and
Mm-hmm.
integrate them. Just want to make sure I'm doing it right.
Yeah, let me show you because you'll like this. It's really robust and there's a lot you can do. Okay, so here we got a CSV file. It's got a whole bunch of different columns in it. That's what you're seeing here on the left side. And you notice up here at the top, I can import these as new contacts, and that's simple. Or I can say update existing contacts by matching the specified column. And then within that, I have a couple more options. I can, do not import as new contacts. In other words, if you don't find a match, don't create a new contact. Or maybe I do want to do that. So I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds in a way. So what this says now is if you find a match based on the email address, then I can go over here and say, update their gender and their native language and their age, because maybe I've got some new file that happens to have that additional data that I didn't have when I first loaded everything. And so what's happening when I go forward with this is the system, I just hit next here, right? But what's going to happen is if it finds a match based on the email, it will only update these fields that I've checked in this second column here. If it does not find a match, because we chose the second option up here, it will create a new record using the field mapping that you've set up here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then I'm guessing that I could go through that process all over again, but checking their phone number instead of their email if I want to make sure that.
Yeah, that's true. You can match on phone number. It's a little tricky though, because it's less precise. Like it's going to depend on little details like if your data has a 1 in front of the phone number or not, and stuff like that. Yeah. That's why email is always best if you can use that. But in theory, yes, you can do it. You could do it based on, company name and first name or something like that,
Cool. All right, cool. Thanks for explaining that.
Sure. Let's see. One other thing I want to make sure we look at. It's another thing that's moved in the navigation up here. It used to be under the little hamburger menu. Now under reports, you have dashboards. But you're going to want to create your own dashboards. And the way these work is each dashboard, we call it, is a page here. And each dashboard can have 9 different graphs on it, 3 rows of 3. And you can create as many different dashboards or pages as you want. And so to set those up, you go into dashboards and just create and edit dashboards. And then you choose the page or create a new one with the little plus. And then you choose the graph that you want to modify or create a new one with the plus sign. And then here, you can play around with graphing based on all of your custom fields, right? So let's try, like I forget who it was that asked about, new leads coming in from your website, right? And just having kind of a graph or a dashboard of that, right? So I might want to say, I'm going to graph it by create date, so, and then you see here, now it's asking me, do you want to do that, group it by day or week or month or quarter, which you can choose options there. And then, you can choose a date range, how far back to go. But then down here, I could say, I only want to include the ones that have lead source equal to website, right? So now I'm just going to see a graph of my web leads, which I'm not even sure what data I'm playing around with here in this demo database. So I'm not sure what we're going to get, but yeah, that's going way back. So let's just do, you know, the last, not 6 months, the last 7 days. We'll probably get nothing. Oh man, what happened there? Yeah, I broke it. But that's the idea. You have a dashboard in your account that's I think called My Dashboard. You can go in and just play around with editing those, or you can create new ones using those plus signs. Let's see. Okay. What else? What other questions do you guys have? Oh,
You
it's like
you were talking about building lists. Where's that tomorrow?
well, good question. Tomorrow at, I forget the time now. Let's see, where is it? I think at 11 my time, so that would be noon Eastern. We're doing a webinar on how to build B2B contact lists using our B2B contact database. So we're just going to spend an hour on that subject alone. So you're all welcome to join us for that. You should have been getting some emails and text messages and stuff on how to register for that. But to be clear, because everybody does get a little confused by this, in your SalesNexus account, you have access to the B2B contact database in the form of what we call enrichment. So I'll show you what that means. So when I go here, I'm just going to grab a list that I have saved. So here's a list of contacts where I just have their email and their name and their phone number, and that's all I got. So you see the little green up button. If I hit that up button here when I'm looking at a list or when I'm on an individual contact, what it does is it's checking with our B2B contact database, matching on the email address. And it's going to fill in all the missing information that we have in the database. You can see it found all of them, and it's going to come back and give me addresses and industries and titles and mobile phone numbers and personal email addresses and revenue and employees and social links and all kinds of stuff. So you'll see there's a somewhere in here, if I didn't nuke it somewhere along the way. Yeah, there it is. There's a social tab on your right side. And so now I have David's LinkedIn link since I updated his record with the up button, as well as his mobile phone. So that's what we call the contact enrichment. That's built right into SalesNexus. Everybody gets a certain number of credits per month, and that's per user per month. So if you have 5 users, then you might be getting 1,500 credits per month to do that enrichment. You're only using a credit when there's a match found and a contact is updated. If you have a email that we can't find, then you're not losing a credit. So that's the enrichment. What we're going to look at tomorrow is more, hey, I need to, I don't have the emails in the first place, right? So I need to come in here and build a list of, let's say, fund managers. So I'm going to just pull up one that I've already created. And you can see, I'm looking for fund managers in Switzerland, right? So the way that works is I put in different keywords that would be in their title. And I put in some information about their location and some other criteria. And now I've got that list, and I can hit export and export that to a CSV file, which I could then import into SalesNexus. So happy to go into that more. Anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, can you show me how you got to that page again?
Oh, well, sorry. This is a separate system. So in SalesNexus, you can do the enrichment, and Ramped Up is the B2B contact database, which you need a separate account for to build new lists. You know, if you're interested in that, if you can join the session tomorrow, great. We'll be publishing the recording if you can't. And if you want to we can set up a trial account for you so you can, you know, get in and search around and experiment with it. So if you're interested in that, just let me know. Maybe put your email in the chat here, and I'll get you set up.
I have one last question. I apologize. So I uploaded a bunch of contacts, but a lot of them I don't have. They're no good. So I kind of want to go through and just delete a bunch.
Yeah.
Is there a way to mass delete, or click on the X and then click the confirm, click the X and confirm, etc.?
Yeah, no, there's a couple of shortcuts. First, since you asked the question, let me point out for everybody, one of the things that you should consider if you're planning to do a lot of emailing and you have a list that you haven't already been emailing on a regular basis, is if you go to settings here, you can go to add contacts. And over here on the left, you see manage imported lists. So to your question, if you wanted to just nuke the list that you imported and start over, you could just, you know, check off the ones you want to get rid of and go up here on the right and say delete list. And it just deletes those contacts that were in those lists. So that's one way to backtrack. But the other thing I wanted to point out is you can also here cleanse your list. And what this does is it checks your email addresses with our list validation and cleansing partner. And so it's going to validate that the emails are good. They're not, you know, invalid email addresses. But more importantly, really, it's going to also identify any spam traps or frequent spam complainers and things like that on your list and just take them off the list so that you won't be getting yourself in spam trouble by hitting a bunch of people that always report spam. And that is a thing for sure. So that's a tool that's there. There is a cost for that. It's 4 cents per contact per as a part of the cleanse, or 4 cents per email is the way I should have said it. But now to finish answering your question, you can also go here and just say, all right, give me the list. I want to look at the list of people that I'm trying to get a better list here. If I click into any of these lists, it's going to make that my lookup so that I can then, you know, play around with that list, right? So here we go. There's one contact that I kind of partially imported, but to get something a little more useful as an example, when I go to, you know, a lookup, right? And we go back to this edit list. So here I could say, you know, I want to kind of cherry pick the list and say, okay, those are the guys I want to get rid of, right? So I just go right here and say delete checked.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. What else? Anybody else have any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you guys for your time. Really appreciate it. And, again, we'll be doing the B2B contact list building tomorrow at noon. So join us for that if you can. And otherwise, we'll be doing the training again on Friday at noon Eastern also. Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Hey, thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
Thanks.